joining us today. And our meeting is indeed being recorded. I'm Alexa Smith, and I'm the International Partnerships and Programs Coordinator for the Office of International Programs. And I want to welcome you to our event today. This is our first conversation on international education, and it is part of our National Education Week events here at KUMC. So thank you all so much for joining us. Our panel today is made up of two clinical elective rotation at KUMC alumni and 3 international educational experience alumni. But before we get to the panel, I'd like to share a little bit about International Education Week with you. Happy International Education Week 2020, and welcome to our by the Office of International Programs at KUMC. According to the Department of State International Education Week, or IEW, November 16th through the 20th, 2020 is an opportunity to celebrate the benefits of international education and exchange worldwide. This joint initiative of the U.S. Department of State and the U.S. Department of Education is part of our efforts to promote programs that prepare Americans for a global environment and attract future leaders from abroad to study, learn, and exchange experiences. International Education Week is a week for celebration, a celebration of diverse cultures, languages, people, and the relationships and connections we have forged here and across oceans and continents. This is a time to celebrate our friendships and to celebrate our collective and individual accomplishments. Today, we are ready for a celebration. After a very difficult year due to the complications of COVID-19, which halted international mobility, as well as new and proposed immigration rules and presidential proclamation, which created additional uncertainty and anxiety, this week is our opportunity to stop and spotlight on the wonders and wonderfulness of interacting with people from around the world. While international travel has halted, our international engagement has not been stopped. We continue to communicate and engage virtually with our friends and partners around the world. We were not discouraged. Rather, we are leveraging opportunities. OIP started Foundations of Global Health, a year-long series of presentations geared to prepare our community to be leaders and catalysts of change, who defeat health disparities by ensuring health equalities. In the face of proposed immigration rules and changes, we at KUMC have stood in solidarity with our international friends, colleagues, and coworkers. Here at KUMC, we know better than how much our international friends contribute to our community and how desperately we would miss any of them if they chose to work, study, or do research elsewhere. Diversity is essential to creativity of thought and expanding our mental horizons and understandings. Simply put, we all need to interact with others who think differently and perceive the world differently, as it makes each of us better, smarter, and a little more empathetic and understanding. As Senator Fulbright stated, we must try to expand the boundaries of human wisdom, empathy, and perception. And there is no way of doing that except through education. The essence of intercultural education is the acquisition of empathy, the ability to see the world as others see it, and to allow for the possibility that others may see something we have failed to see more accurately. We know the value of individuals from around the world who come to the US to study and how their presence in America contribute even more profoundly than the $41 billion they contribute yearly to higher education, as reported by NAFSA, the National Association of International Educators. International students, researchers, and employees are part of the heart of our institutions and are woven into the beautiful tapestry of American higher education and American society. To say we are grateful for their presence seems grossly inadequate. We could not imagine our lives here at KUMC the presence of internationals and international exchange. it is now my pleasure to get our panel started. If our panelists could just introduce themselves, we'll start our conversation. Whoever wants to go first.
Sure, I can go. So I'm Sterling Braun. I'm a PGY4 in the plastic surgery program. And I went to medical school here, and I had an international experience in Kumasi, Ghana. Good to meet you guys.
Welcome. I can go next. Hi, I'm Tarun Dalia, one of the fifth year PGY5. I'm one of the cardiology fellows, second year cardiology fellow with fifth year PGY. I did my medical school back in India and New Delhi, and then did my residency here at KU, and then now a fellow.
Hi, I'm Sarah Kwabuzeski. I am a physical therapist at Performance Rehab, which is an outpatient ortho setting. I did my abroad rotation in Manguzi, South Africa, which is about 10 kilometers from the border of Mozambique on the coast.
I'm Vinny Francio. I'm a PGY2 in rehabilitation medicine. I did a clinical elective here as a fourth year medical student in rehabilitation medicine back in November 2018, and ended up matching here after that. So I'm a second year now in rehab medicine.
And my name is Katie. I went to nursing school at the University of Kansas School of Nursing, graduated in 2017, and ever since I've been working out in Denver as a public health nurse for a local county health department. I did my international rotation in nursing school at the Christian Medical College in Vellore in Tamil Nadu, India.
Wonderful. Again, thank you all so much for joining us. We are so appreciative. So,
thanks for having us.
Why did you choose to have an international educational experience or clinical rotation?
I can go first on that if that's okay.
Sure. Can you turn your volume up just a little bit?
Maybe it's
I'm having a hard time hearing you. There we go.
Okay, probably it's a headphone issue. Okay. Well, for me, it was, so I decided to do international experience when I was in my final year of medical school. So I wanted to actually see how a health system outside India works. Actually, it was more of a curiosity, like how do people in US practice, and what are their main goals, and how much the technology has advanced as compared to my country. And then also to enhance my clinical skills and knowledge. That was the main motive I wanted to come to US. And I was thankful enough to KU to let me do that for a couple of months. So that was my main goal.
I decided to do an international experience to force myself out of my comfort zone. I first went abroad in undergrad for a semester in Exeter, England, and met the most amazing people, learned so much more than I could have learned in any classroom at KU. And then I decided ever since then I was going to take every opportunity I could to travel and learn from other cultures, from other people who have experienced different things and have been taught different things. And I think that's the best way to learn. And you kind of talked about that earlier in the intro, and you grow empathy. And also I wanted to be thrown into the fire a little bit. It's not my typical learning style, but I know that it would just force me to be creative, and I'd get a lot more experience hands-on versus, being handheld and every move watched maybe on rotations here.
Yeah, I can chime in on that. So for me, as coming from Brazil and graduating abroad, it was just fundamental to be part of the U.S. healthcare system for the whole matching process. I was interested, of course, doing my residency here. So I was so grateful when I had this opportunity at KU. I was very excited to learn more about the program here in rehabilitation, and this program was just perfect. The international program here was just the perfect match for me because you allowed me to clinically contribute, participate with all the rotations as a medical student, and kind of engage with the faculty, which was pretty much fundamental through that whole residency matching process. So I was pretty fortunate to kind of succeed with that. It was excellent. I really enjoyed.
For me, I think, similar to what other people have said about, I think with any international experience, there's really, it's a great experience to get introduced to different cultures, see a different healthcare system and the way things are done. For me personally, I knew I wanted to do plastic surgery at the time. And I think, it's always interesting to see how procedures are done in different settings. And where resources may be different. I think one thing I really like about plastic surgery is that it can be done with, a lot of the procedures can be done with just a knife and sutures. So, it doesn't always change what can be done in a different place, different resource setting, just maybe how it's done.
Yeah, and for me, as I mentioned, I'm in the public health field, and I knew I wanted to be in public health pretty much since I started nursing school. And I think for good public health perspective, it's so important to understand like the broader scope of like the interconnectedness of international public health and even healthcare, because we really are all connected. And as everyone else has mentioned, this experience is just, it's so important for your knowledge as a healthcare provider. It's important for your perspective of work, and a sense of professionalism, and in a sense of cultural humility. And so I really feel like I grew immensely in both of those areas from my almost 2 months that I spent abroad.
You all have touched on this a little bit, but what was your experience as a guest in another healthcare system, and how would you describe the benefit of experiencing another healthcare system?
I can go first on that. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, yeah, for me it was very important just the kind of like experience that different patient population, from especially in rehabilitation medicine, the kind of patients that I'm seeing here, compared to where I was coming from, other parts of the U.S. or where I was coming from in Brazil or other parts of South America or Europe that I've been to, so on, so on. So that was very, very important to really understand the patient population, the needs, things like that we address in specifically the profession that I chose. So.
Yeah. So for me, it was actually a very pleasant experience. I was so surprised to see that how smoothly international office helped me transition from like coming from India. They came, actually, I was so surprised to see that international office came to pick me up in airport and then transferred me to a place to stay. So it was a very well-oiled machine, and everybody was very, you can say, helping and kind. And it was really a humbling experience to see how advanced the technology is at the time of US. I can say that probably I felt like India was maybe like 5-6 years behind in technology at that time. What I experienced, like there are a lot of different way of doing things, as probably Sterling said before. Like when you go to different health system, same things can be done in different ways, and then you can basically expand your horizon. That's what I felt, and it was very humbling and pleasant experience to be in a different health system, and it actually shapes your personality a lot.
I'll add to that. I think you definitely have a new attitude of gratitude for everything that we have here. I remember complaining about documentation systems, and I go to South Africa, rural South Africa, where they carry around cards about this big, where everyone's just scribbling down as quick as they can whatever little visit that they had, and you're reading, the doctor's notes, and then the patient is in charge of keeping track of those. So you they're covered in dust, they're crinkled, and then I can never complain about documentation systems again here. And there's so much more than that. That's one tiny little thing, but it does force you to get creative with your treatment. And I think I touched on it before. I went hoping to get thrown into the fire, knowing that there's not enough help in rural South Africa and so many other places. So I think it's very beneficial to, go and realize what you have. You're helping those that aren't as fortunate as we are. And then your skill set with nonverbal communication, your empathy grows, you're learning from other people who work there full time. It's just so incredibly beneficial and such a crazy experience.
I would second all of that. And then I guess just, addressing kind of what the experience was like. I think it's the system there is sort of British influenced. I was treated very well. It's a little bit more, I would say maybe there's a little bit more formality up front. Like I think the first day I met with the chairman of the surgery department, and they just kind of make sure you have all of the paperwork or documentation. And then after that, it's most of the time I spent with residents, which would be, so prior to becoming a consultant, they're a resident. And then of course you spend some time with the consultants as well. Yeah, I would say from patients and the other providers, it was a really good experience. I think everyone, treated everyone pretty nicely. I didn't see anyone kind of going hard on it. Maybe the consultants of their own residents, but not to us.
Just to touch on that, I think I had maybe a different experience than what some other people have mentioned, kind of mentioning, our privilege as Americans in the healthcare system. Alexa, you said the word guest, and I feel like that really hits the nail on the head for me at CMC. I feel like if we could have the public health programming and system that CMC has, I would be like the happiest person alive. I feel like I learned so much about what we could be doing better in the United States. So gosh, their community clinics and their rural outreach and their home visitation, it was like dreaming of what could be in the US. And, to some extent, as I've progressed in my public health career, I've realized that we do have some of that infrastructure, but man, CMC has it down to a science. And then to touch more on like the guest piece, I guess, I got to know some of the Modal fellows who were abroad in the US. They're, students or faculty from India that came to study at KUMC or work at KUMC. And we developed a pretty good friendship with them before we went to India. So I really felt like I already had people that I knew there. I had people that I could trust that would show me around, and they had us over for dinner to their houses. And so it was like the best hospitality. So yeah, I felt like a guest, but in a much more real sense. I felt like I also had friends there, which was cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's such a great program that we have at KUMC, the relationship with Christian Medical College, our reciprocity with the Modale program, and the Robinson Scholars. To get to have 2 junior faculty here for a semester to then meet with our students who are going to CMC for their international experience, so they can start building their friendships, and then, as the Modales are here as guests in the US and going through their international experience, they have, you know, someone there to be their friend, and then our students have someone there when they go to India. So it really is a wonderful program. And yeah, their community health program is amazing. It's actually been recognized by the World Health Organization. So they really do know what they're doing for sure. So I just wanted to mention that because that's pretty cool, I think. What was your experience overall as being a guest in another country? You know, what was that like for you?
I think, I'm guessing, overall, I think it was a very positive experience for me. I didn't feel like differentiated or discriminated based on my race or color. Everybody was very welcoming, and nobody said anything about my accent too. So that was nice, and I felt welcomed. I had no complaints at all, not even a single incident to talk about that I felt like I was not treated well. So it was a wonderful experience. And maybe it's a Midwest culture, but I felt very welcoming in 2 months of my electives at KU as a medical student.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Well, thank you.
We have one question here on the chat from Kimberly. She's asking, what did you realize you didn't know, and what did you realize you were lacking in the US?
That would be for those who went from the US out. You know, what did you realize you didn't know? And what, you know, and I think you spoke very well about that, Katie, when you answered about the community health program. Because yeah, CMC does have, like, it's recognized by the World Health Organization, the community health work. But was there anything else? Or Sarah, I was trying to get you to talk about like what you realized you didn't have and you didn't know in the US, not in Manguzi.
Right. I was like, oh gosh, it's a really long list.
Yeah, you misread my question.
Yeah. I'm so, and I was trying to listen at the same time too. So my biggest thing is I think I was so impressed with the amount of communication that happens in Manguzi. I think they do a really good job because their documentation system is lacking. They make up for that in face-to-face conversations, interprofessional learning. And I think they're really creative with problem solving and figuring out how they're going to get something done, because they only had an x-ray machine in Manguzi. And so if you're trying to diagnose somebody with just an x-ray, it forces you to get creative and figure things out. So I'd say that things that we don't have in the US is I think sometimes we get complacent and, you know, you maybe email or, you know, have that documentation system where you communicate with people, but it's not that face-to-face, and it doesn't necessarily always involve the patient right then and there.
That's an awesome observation. You know, the emphasis on the communication, and I think that probably, I'm just speculating because I'm not in clinical care, but that probably really creates a relationship between the provider and the, you know, the patient relative to that communication. It probably helps build up that relationship and that trust.
Definitely. And it helped in my case too, because I was not speaking Zulu, or not very many words in Zulu. So my,
Yeah.
So me being able to connect to the patient more in the presence of other people who could translate was really helpful.
So you all have talked a lot about how this experience was so beneficial for you as a student. Why should current students go on an international educational experience or come to KUMC for the clinical rotation program? You know, why should they take this leap of faith and go to another country and spend the money to have the experience?
I think it's a fundamental part of medical training to have an international experience. That's my opinion. Um, I think it shapes you as a person. You know, like it will help you improve your character. You'll see things. You'll learn things in a different way. Will open your mind. You'll be more thankful, more grateful for opportunities. You'll be more kind, and I think we all need that in Madison, especially with today's what's going on all over the world. So I think that is fundamental, and I think specifically in my case, as a medical student, fourth year coming in, matching the whole process, that was just like essential for me. That's what kind of connected me with the department, connected me with the faculty, the other students, the other residents. So if you are in a similar position like I was, if you're a fourth year med student or a third year med student and you were considering have a career here in the US for residency training, I think that is fundamental. And you should definitely come to KU. Kansas City is the gem of the Midwest, and KU is wonderful training, excellent academic center, and you'll be very welcomed by the international officers like I was, Stacy and everyone else. Thank you very much. And everybody will be happy that you are here, and that's it.
I will actually second everything Vinny said. Very good points. And I did the same thing too when I was final year. At that time, I didn't know I was going to apply for like USMLE. And when I came here, it was a positive experience. I realized there's a lot of advancements and then there's a lot of different ways I can learn. So I decided to come apply for USMLE and that get trained in US, and I got lucky to get matched at KU. I think if you do clinical rotation in a particular program, people know you, and then it helps in the interview process also, and then it will be helpful to getting residency. But apart from that, like just an example, back in my home country, when you do center lines, you don't use ultrasound. Here in US, it's very common practice to use ultrasound to put center lines in. So it's good to have both skills. Suppose you're in a rural area, you don't have availability of ultrasound, you can use your clinical judgment to put a center line in. Same thing happens for if you have to take fluid off from your belly, like paracentesis. In India, we don't use ultrasound. Here, it's very common practice to use ultrasound for doing paracentesis. So if you know both the skills, they can both come handy in different occasions. So that's what my feeling is about. Like you basically increase your knowledge a lot, you widen your horizon, shape your personality. There are a lot of benefits. And as I think Sarah said, to get out of your comfort zone and be challenged.
I always just tell people, when else are you going to get an opportunity to live in a country for a couple months and still have a job?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's really an awesome experience, and it's totally worth it, and you don't get many opportunities like that in life.
Oh, I forgot one thing. Like when I came to KU's, I think international office makes sure that we have students from all over the world. I think I met people from China, from Germany, from Australia. So you make friends, and you learn about from their culture too. So that was a good experience actually.
Yeah, I absolutely second that. You make friends and you connect with people that, even for 2 years ago, we still occasionally, chat and kind of say, hey, how's it going? How things are going with you? And
Exactly, yeah.
I agree. I think especially if the place that you go is the place that you want to return to, it's really useful to have make friends and acquaintances at that institution. And some of the people who I met, I guess 4 or 5 years ago now, were residents at the time, are now consultants at that hospital. And so, going forward, I mean, it's a nice relationship to have to potentially be able to do that through my career.
Yeah, and I'll echo being able to just meet a variety of students from around the world. We all stayed in the same hostel on the CMC campus and would just like sit and swap stories about our day and like what our healthcare systems are like. And so it was people from, gosh, like Germany, Australia, Mauritius, Malaysia, trying to remember where else, literally all over the world. So it was amazing. And yeah, I also just think that like, in terms of current students who are maybe like thinking about applying, it just, to me, it just gives an international experience gives you just this like vital perspective of working with people from different backgrounds. And like I said, just that piece of like cultural humility in your work is going to be so important in healthcare. And then just learning that like we are not always the experts for our patients. So learning that like different cultures have different things to offer or share for us, like we can learn from them.
Going off of that, how has this impacted your career? You know, you like Katie, you just said like we're not always like we don't always know everything the patient needs, or I'm sorry, I totally butchered that. How this experience in career, like did it change how you view what you do and why you do it and how you relate to your patients, be they, you know, you're the doctor or the physical therapist or the nurse, you know, what did you feel?
Yeah, I don't know if that question was for me or not, but
It's anybody. But you
yeah, gosh. Like I said, I feel like it just kind of opened my eyes to what it's like to work with people who are different from me and people who speak different languages than me and people who have had completely different life experiences from birth literally up until now. And so, and like when you think about how diverse the US is, I just think that's such an important perspective and an important, I don't know, skill to have, I guess. And so it really just solidified, this experience solidified for me that this public health is what I want to do. And I really have a passion for working with people from different backgrounds. So.
Anyone else want to answer?
Sure.
I mean, I guess I can answer, you know, how did it impacted my career? I would say that tremendously, you know. I came here as a medical student, now I'm a resident, so I don't think I need any further explanation, you know. Hopefully I can, you know, stay around and do fellowship here, but it just kind of goes back and repeating the same thing that I've said a couple of times already is, you know, I think this is essential, especially if you're coming from outside the country, from an outside institution. You know, I think matching in residency is really about, you know, not only your medical knowledge but your personality, how you interact with the team, and this was the perfect opportunity for me to experience the different healthcare system, the profession that I chose, the specialty that I chose, and the department itself, the residents, the students, the faculty. So yeah, it tremendously impacted my career. So thank you, I guess.
We have a really good question in the chat from Kelly about kind of the extent. She says, you know, one of the criticisms she has for study abroad for health professionals is the extent to which white saviorism and white privilege is present in programs based in third world countries. And just kind of talking about how we balanced education with risking being exploitative or and yeah, that was a huge concern of mine too. And I think that the Office of International Programs does an incredible job of making sure that we are students, like we are there first and foremost to learn. We're not there to help and do a good deed. Like we are there literally to learn from the expertise of other people. And so I felt much more comfortable in that space, knowing that I truly was there to like take in information and learn things that I could bring back and apply to the US. I didn't feel like it was, you know, just the whole mentality of us going over there in the first place was first and foremost to be students. So yeah, I guess that's kind of what I have to say about that.
Katie, I really appreciate your addressing that, and I appreciate who is it? Is it Kelly that said that? Who asked the question? Yes, Kelly Richardson, because this is something that is really important and essential as we approach global health, and it is something that takes concerted effort and change. And we have to be very aware of every single word we use, because words have power. And we have so much privilege and power in the typical words that we use when we engage with others. And so we say it a lot. We try to emulate the idea that these are learning experiences. And when we interact with our partners, it's collaboration and mutualism. We work very hard to be aware of the power differential that comes from historical colonialism, and to counter that, and how we speak, how we interact, and we sometimes have to coach even our partners to not say things like donations and helping as well, because everybody has the habit of using certain words and being in a particular relationship that's kind of a dance. And so our effort is to change that dance and to elevate it for the entire world, so that we are all respectful of the knowledge of our partners. And it's a challenge. I was doing an interview. There was an article being written on one of our programs, and I was explaining all of this, and they said, yeah, but you send your students to places where they're going to help, right? And I said, no, that is never a consideration. In fact, if they're going to help, we won't send them there. We send our students all over the world, whether it's to Europe or Africa, Asia, Pacifica, Central South America. We send them where they're going to have a fabulous learning experience. We send them where we know our partners welcome our students, provide a safe and incredible learning experience. So that's what we look for in our partners. And then we hope that we offer that as well to the students that we welcome at KU Med, that they feel welcome, and that they have an opportunity to learn at our institution from, like they said, not just us, but other students from around the world and other individuals who are there.
I should probably say a little something, because my experience was a little different, more on the, I would say, like, white saviorism comment was probably a good explanation of Manguzi, at least on the physical therapy side. You have everyone coming in from all over for like a year, most of them, and they're all white, coming in for a year to work, a lot of them to pay off government debt, and then they leave, and everyone else in the community is Black. And so there's definitely a big race issue there. And when I went, I think it's very important, and it's been communicated well, to go in with an open mindset and to learn. I was thrown in there a little bit more instead of and thrown in on my own, which I was kind of wanting a little bit too, just to get my a good experience in challenging myself and getting creative, the things I talked about earlier. I think there's still plenty of ways we can improve, but I think it's really important to have an open mindset and know you're going there to learn, and then just, I guess, help when you need to.
Thank you for that, Sarah. That's really insightful of you. And it's also very informative. And you just, informatively. We no longer send students to Manguzi, actually, for some of those reasons. It's hard to partner. Yeah, it's really hard to partner with them, and that's not a judgment. It's just a reality that it is hard to partner with them so much. So that is no longer one of our locations. Alexa could speak to that too. But we did have. Let me say this though: we had students had some really wonderful clinical experiences in Manguzi in the past. So I wouldn't say that the experience across the board. It's different, right? It's challenging. It's different. So there have been some very wonderful clinical experiences there, but we've taken them off our offerings from our office. So thank you, Sarah.
I agree with the points that Sarah and Katie brought up. And I think it's a good question, and I think it's a difficult question too. It's hard to know exactly what the right way to do it is. It's something I think as a field, plastic surgery is kind of concerned with, because in the past, historically, people would fly into these countries, and do, for instance, cleft palate repairs and then fly out. And there was, little to no follow-up. And so I think that drew quite a bit of criticism. And I think as a field, there's more of an effort now to be establishing, kind of like Kimberly and Alexa pointed out, a collaborative relationship or an ongoing relationship. And the idea that information flows both ways. Oh, Kimberly, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
Go ahead, Sterling. I'm sorry. Continue.
But I think, for the purposes of this international rotation, I think the key, as Sarah and Katie pointed out, is just that we're students there. And I think, going in and approaching it from the perspective that we're going to be learning, I think for the most part would address it, because it's not really a situation where we're being asked to do a lot of things. I mean, they may ask, how we do this or that. And I think it's, I think it can be helpful to kind of say, oh, we do this, or this is how we do that. But I mean, also, medicine in the end is a science, and there may be different approaches. There may be different ways that lifestyle or circumstances influence the conditions people have. But, to give an example, a skin graft in the United States is a skin graft in Africa. And, they don't, at least in some of the cases, don't necessarily suture the skin graft in or staple the skin graft in. Sometimes it's just an ACE wrap, and, skin graft still takes with an ACE wrap. And sometimes those are useful things to learn, because it just maybe points out that just because the way that's how I've always seen people do it here doesn't mean that it doesn't work other ways.
Sterling, I'm so glad you talked and made these points, especially about plastic surgery. And you're right, there's some places where there's been some bad reputation about activities that have gone on, specifically kind of what we call the traditional medical mission model. But again, not all of those activities are in themselves inherently wrong or even harmful to the community. And I think you're aware, and I'm just going to talk about this experience because I know you're aware of it. Our plastic surgery department, headed by Dr. Corntager and Dr. Butterworth, are aware of all these things that we just talked about, and they are putting in a lot of effort to create a relationship in Guatemala. The fact is, there are no plastic surgeons in Guatemala. So some surgeries, they need to be done, and they need to be done by plastic surgeons. And so their plan, they have a long-term plan. And that's what's really essential, is getting you thinking about global health in terms of long-term. It's maybe not just a month rotation. Maybe it's not just going, one time for an experience, but creating these long-term relationships. And so they are working with a doctor in Guatemala and a hospital, and they're training. Their goal is to train surgeons to be plastic surgeons and to train residents. So not only are they taking their residents there for training, they're also wanting to train the residents there with the hope of truly building this collaboration. And they know it's not a one trip. It's not a 1-year event. This is ongoing. They have continuous follow up with their patients through telemedicine, communication with the doctor. And so, it's a commitment, and it's because it's a relationship. And that's what relationships are, right? We connect with other people, we build relationships, and then there's a sense of obligation and mutual like dependency almost, right? When you have these type of relationships, it's a good thing. I'm really proud of our plastic surgery department, so I wanted to put that plug in, Sterling, for you guys. So thank you.
Thank you guys. You guys, I think we have an excellent international program here, and you guys do such a great job with organizing all these rotations and making sure they're all good experiences. So thank you guys for all your work.
It is our pleasure. It truly is. Like, getting you guys ready, experiences, helping you prepare, and then like seeing you come back and telling us like your stories and your experiences, and now even years later you guys are telling me these things. Like it just touches my heart, like to hear you guys have these experiences, or Vinny in turn telling us about their time. It's just, I think it's so important that we learn from each other and that we have these experiences. So I'm happy to do it. It makes my day. It's such great experiences, and it's true relationships and partnerships. We have relationships and contacts all over the world, but it's our partnerships with faculty, like Dr. Kovac with Ghana, that relationships. I mean, it's like this, like those are people, like those are our friends, like those are the people we work with, so that we can collaborate all the time. And you get a question from them. Oh yeah, let's talk about this. Or Dr. Headings with Romania and Zambia. Like it's so amazing when you see those relationships, or CMC. Like I think that one's kind of our paradigm, if you will. Like it's so deep, the way that we collaborate and exchange. So I just love seeing it. I really do.
And I think the burning question from some of the students who are emailing us about attending today and not being able to attend today is they want to know, what's on the horizon for them. So we're really happy to celebrate those students who've gone out and those students who've come to KUMC, and, especially like Dr. Vinny, who matched. Like for us, that's such a success. It makes us so happy, Dr. Vinny. Like, I feel like you're like my own son, in terms of your success. So it really makes us proud. But we all know that right now we have COVID, and so travel as we know it is not supported right now by the university. So international rotations, as you guys all had, are suspended until February 2022. And so it's really helped us kind of leverage what we've been trying to do all along. And that is a little bit to take the emphasis off the travel and emphasize the relationship and global health as a field, because you can engage in global health virtually. You can learn from others virtually. And we know now better than ever how impactful this could be. We know that the world is connected. COVID-19 has shown us that this is a global problem, and we need everyone working together to solve these global health issues and other global health disparities. So while we aren't going to be necessarily sending you out for summer 2021, we want you to really consider some of the offerings that we have for you. And one of them is the series of Foundations of Global Health, which Alexa mentioned in the introduction. And we have one of those sessions tonight with Dr. Mendez at 5:30 p.m. This is a year-long series. We will continue this after the pandemic, because what it does is it is a series that helps you shape the information and understand the right attitudes to engage in global health. How do you become a global health leader? How do you engage in global health care or research? And you'll hear from all of our faculty who are engaged in this work and some of our international partners as well. And then secondary, we have 2 partners that offer virtual research and virtual internships. And they base everything on what we talked about in terms of collaboration and mutualism and being aware of like power dynamics. And I'm really excited for you to interact. Dr. Everett is a physician and she's the executive director of Children Family Health International. The woman, when she speaks, if you are interested in global health, you want to listen to her for hours. She's fabulous. So please let us know if you're interested in these opportunities. Again, we'll be helping you get these signed up for the summer. And at any time, if you're like an M3 and you have time to do a virtual, or if you're an M4 and you want to do that, we can help you. And we're able to fund these experiences for you. So it'll be no out-of-pocket expense for any of the students who want to, or residents who want to engage in these opportunities. So just let us know.
So we have just a few minutes left. I didn't know if any students had questions for our panelists. You're welcome to unmute yourself and ask if you'd like, or if you'd like to put them in the chat. But yeah, I thought maybe you'd like to take the time and ask the experts. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. I can't thank you enough for sharing your experiences and global health. I think are just fantastic and wonderful, and how meaningful it is that we really learn from each other. We have we have a Foundations of Global Health by Dr. Mendez tonight at 5:30. It is on Mayan epidemiology. Christine, is that? I don't have it in front of me, so I'm hoping that's right. Yeah. And for International Education Week, we have Student Life Bingo tomorrow. And on Friday, we have a mini global fair where we're highlighting Germany, Mexico, and Nigeria. And as a plug for next week, we do have 2 events. Native American Heritage Month, we will have a presentation on COVID-19's impact on the Native American community. And then Tuesday, be a presentation by Sharice Davids. So all that great information has been shared in the chat. And so I hope you all will join us at our other events. And thank you again so much, everyone, for coming. And I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you for having us. And if the students have any questions, they can feel free to reach out to us. I'm more than happy to answer them later on too. Yep. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Feel free to email if you have any questions. Good day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having us.